That's so wrong on so many different levels. Thank you.
I'm the moderator, I'm Andrea. What we're going to do is I could sit here and go on and on about how great this guy is, but let's be honest, you want to ask questions, right? Yeah? So what we're going to do, we're going to open up questions. I would like the kids to go first for a few minutes. That means actual kids, not inner children. Okay. Right here in the blue shirt, if you'll line up behind her, and we'll let you ask some questions.
And before we get started, let me just say this. I must apologize with having this panel so late in the day. I must confess I am greatly fatigued. I hasten to say, however, the reason I am fatigued is that for the last 7 hours, I have been greeting and been greeted by and interacting with the absolute most wonderful fans I have ever seen at any convention ever. I'm not blowing smoke or exaggerating one iota. I've been to many of these conventions, and the fans are always great. There was something about the energy, the passion, and just the wonderful grace that I have been witness to at my table. And my hat's off to all of you. It shows a very important truth that the celebrities are not this convention. It's you. You could have this convention without celebrities. And it's all on you guys, and kudos to every single person that came to this wonderful DragonCon.
If the kids want to go ahead and line up, and while that goes on, maybe we'll ask a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we go ahead and start? Tell us a little bit maybe about how you got started. Was it your choice of path?
It all began at puberty. I had a little high voice when I was a kid, and when I went through the change, it dropped like the mumps, as they say. And I got into being interested in broadcasting because I had that particular sound that people associated with announcers. And so I went to study at Arkansas State University, broadcasting, but got more interested in acting. And so I finally left Arkansas and straight to New York City, and got involved with a National Lampoon project, which was the third Jaws film, which was called Jaws 3, People 0. And it was about a movie company about to make a shark movie, but unfortunately we were going to use Spielberg's shark. It didn't move in the show how it worked. Well, Spielberg, a little insecure at that particular point of his life, stepped in and said to the studio, it's going to ruin the fantasy of Jaws if you guys do this, so you either cancel this film or I'm walking. So what do you think the studio did? And according to the script, I had a love scene with Bo Derek, if you remember her. So that's my Hollywood tragedy story, and I was kind of stranded in Los Angeles without anything to do, and I was with William Morrison, so I gravitated over to the voiceover department, and they began to send me out, and things began to snowball as the years went on, and then I got to the point where, you know what, this is a pretty darn good gig. So I started to stay there, and that was my particular pathway to where I am now in front of you.
Woo! I'm going to open up to everybody since we don't have any kids. We'll do another question.
Okay. I would remind you, please, those speakers over here are pointed that way, and in previous panels I've had a little difficulty understanding what you're saying. So just speak up a little bit for me and help me out.
While we get ready, I want to ask you something I've wondered about. When you do your voices, do you have to mask, I didn't look up where you're from, and the reason I feel like a stalker if I look up where people are from. But like me, I've got country and more country. Do you have to ever cover an accent from a region that you're from?
Well, as I said, I'm from Arkansas, but because of the broadcast training, you're conditioned to lose the accent. But in my other acting, my Southern accent is on my tool belt. I can use it whenever I need it. So yeah, I don't. And when I go back to Arkansas, it's like I want to fit in, so I fall right back into it. So it's just like Zelig, the Woody Allen film.
What's your favorite episode of SpongeBob that you've been in?
Well, I think I have 3 that I've found. The camp fire episode. love the sequence with the sea bear. And I wish I could. I memorized what the things you're not supposed to do with the cheese. Slices no good, cubes are fine, and hoop skirt, and wear your hat. Oh, like that.
Like that.
Wrong. And it was one of the episodes that enables me to do one of the things I love to do, which is scream. And just over and over and over again. Well, I guess I'll just limp home. Everything's limping more. And then, dying for pie is one of the other ones. He buys the pie from the pirates, pardon the pun, and thinks there's a bomb inside. He gives it to Spongebob, and he's going to go off at sunset. So he gives Spongebob all of his last wishes, and that just becomes this incredibly abstract sort of thing. And there's a lot of good passages in that. And then a lot of people's favorite is Band Geeks. Just to give you some information, that song at the end, the cruddy Eye of the Tiger kind of thing, well, the writers found this song, and they were just so appalled by it that they said, we've got to do an episode that ends with this song. So they wrote the entire episode around getting to this song. One of my favorite parts of that is when they're in the tunnel about ready to go out, and Squilliam and Squidward are there, and they look over at SpongeBob, and he's doing and cut back to Squidward, he says, that's his eager face. It's just his... So those are my favorite episodes. What's your favorite episode?
Yeah, mine's probably Band Geeks too.
Which one?
Band Geeks.
Oh,
Mine's
yeah.
probably that too.
Yeah, good for you.
If you had to be stuck on a desert island, would you rather be stuck with SpongeBob or Patrick?
Would I rather rip my eyeballs out or drip that's a hard choice. First of all, I would kill myself, so it wouldn't matter. I guess SpongeBob? I just don't know. I gotta go home and think about that. Let me get back to you on that one. It's a lose-lose situation.
Do you think they're gonna cancel the show?
So far, no. We are, if you haven't heard, we're doing another movie. It has an incredibly inventive title. I don't know where they came up with this title. Spongebob Movie 2. And then we're also in negotiations right now to add on 2 more and more than likely 3 more years of the show. So if the world doesn't go to heck right now, it should be new stuff coming down the pike. So keep watching and look for new things.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
Too bad that didn't kill me. That's one of the 2 lines that I like in the situation. The other one was when SpongeBob comes across Mermaid Man's utility belt, and he's got the ray that shrinks, and he shrinks Squidward, and then Patrick picks him up like an action figure, and they're arguing or whatever, and SpongeBob and Squidward looks over the hand and goes, I wonder if a fall would kill me from this height. It's a fun episode. That's where we first learned that Squidward can scream, because when he first starts using the ray at him, all these different mutation things happen to him. So they learned that I could scream, and they started incorporating that sort of thing into the rest of the episodes. Okay.
Hi, I was going to say Squidward's my favorite character, so you're awesome.
Okay.
I was wondering if his voice was one that you always kind of had on the back burner, or if you looked at the picture and like saw the nose and just kind of made it up.
The strange thing is, I look back on back in the mid-90s, I did a show called Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego? And the character that I had was called the Chief, which was a computer personality that would give the heroes information and guidance. And he was a very fast-talking guy, and like Squidward on Red Bull. And so if I slowed him down and gave him a little more angst, that became Squidward's character. So yeah, he was always there. I just didn't know he was there.
Yes. Do you have any voice actors that you look up to or that inspired you?
If you ask any voice person, especially people that do animation, they would be remiss if they didn't say the Laurence Olivier of our field, Mel Blanc. He is the person, he is the prototype, he is the bar to reach to, or was. And he really set the scale for everybody in the entire industry. So yes, I do look up to him. I look up to my colleagues, the people that I had it's a blessing to work with that are just so superb. They're so versatile, so talented. A prime example is Spongebob, Tom Kenny. He can do so many things. In fact, he does so many things in the show. I don't know if you know, he's the French narrator. He's Gary. He's the sound of the jellyfish things, and he does countless characters in every show. So yeah, if I look up to somebody, it's the people I work with. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna add on to that. Has there been anybody who maybe told you, you know what, you're not gonna make it, and you had to kind of prove wrong?
The whole world did that. And this is I'm almost going to digress here, but if you ever deal with young people, always look to give them something of encouragement, because you never know when that one little moment changes their entire life. I was not encouraged whatsoever to interacting. You always hear about starving actors. I didn't even think one could go and make a career out of animated voices or even acting in general. But I was in college and we had a competition, a theatrical competition, and we went to the first one and we had a wonderful comedy, and we actually won, and I got an acting award. I came back and my director was kind of debriefing me, saying how proud he was of me and everything. And blah, 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 blah. And then he said, and I look forward to seeing your work in professional theater. No one had ever said that to me before, giving me the actual option that is something that could happen. And you never know. And that turned me. I was going to go into broadcasting or selling instruments or whatever. That said, I'm going to go to New York City and throw my marbles out. And I did. And I know of other stories of actors and actresses who had that similar one seminal moment that somebody said that magic little thing that said, go that way. And they did. And the rest is history. So what was your question?
I think that was actually a really good answer. I think that's important.
It really is. You just never know. And the same goes for discouragement. You just never know where someone's going to take your words.
Hi, Squidward reminds me of so many people that I know in real life and of myself sometimes when I'm at work. So I was wondering if there was anyone in real life that you took from to make this character.
No, I guess it was just my own personality. Because I say he's my alter ego, but sometimes I believe he is my ego. He's not too far from me, actually. In a fun way, not seriously crabby like that. Sometimes.
If you died, would you go with Davy Jones or the Flying Dutchman?
Well, isn't the Flying Dutchman a part of Davy Jones? I'm not sure about that.
Well, speaking of dying, I don't know if you've heard this, but I have died twice. In 2006, a guy other than Nova Scotia with my name died. Now, at the time, I was on an airplane going to a convention in New Zealand, and the organizer was going to pick me up at the airport, and he got wind by IMDb that I had died. So he calls the airline and asks, is one of us on that aircraft? And they said yes. And when I came out in the terminal, he was kind of surprised to see me. And I asked him, he told me that he called the airline, and I asked him, did you ask them, was I in the cabin or the cargo hold? And it's not over then. 2 months later, a guy with my name in San Diego died, which is now much more reasonable, and a TV station I used to work at in Arkansas picked that up and did an obituary on me in their evening newscast. And I called them slightly irate and asked for a retraction, and they sent me the tapes of it. And it was an epiphany, because no one gets that window. No one gets that opportunity to see what people will say about you when you move on. It's morbid as all get out, but it was actually very cheerful. So what I come away with is I must be the most famous Roger Bumpass, because whenever someone with that name dies, it's me. And so when I do die, no one's going to believe it.
That's just a typo.
I'd just like to begin by saying that present day I really hate the show. I'd like to say present day I really hate the show because Nickelodeon plays it so much.
Yeah, they do.
But what keeps me coming back is Squidward, and Squidward only because of how his character's portrayed as a person who hates his life, hates everyone around him, but he's still capable of happiness and has dreams and stuff like that. So I was wondering, is there anything or any time in your life where you were Squidward?
In that I was discouraged, in that I was struggling to persevere, and eventually was able to get past those feelings and those harsh moments. Yes, every day sometimes. But there's a lesson there. You know, you have to persevere. You have to go on. The alternative is so much worse. You got to go.
Over and over. Trust me, I know. I have a 4-year-old and a husband. So I hear your voice in my house all the time. Is there ever a time when you hear your voice and you're just like, oh, I can't stand it anymore?
Well, you see, I only watch it when I want to. So you're kind of subjected to it. Is that? So I feel sorry for you on that. You know? And I've got friends who are parents that the only reason they don't like the show is that Tom's laughter goes on and on and on, which is a comedic point, and then you do that because it's funny, you know. But I understand here over and over again. It's a harsh thing. Yeah, Nickelodeon is because they're their own network. They do play the things over and over again, which, from my point of view, is great because that means there's envelopes in the mailbox. But I apologize for all you that are annoyed. Just a little, though.
I'm going to let the kids cut up front. So.
And we are not annoyed. I've seen them a million times, but I still love them.
I'm just sorry that we had to play the rerun so often.
Oh, I can't get away from it no matter what I do. It is also.
And Sandy.
Look at that. I got a picture of that.
We just wanted to pay tribute. Saying, you help raise our children, and we wanted to say thank you.
I see I have perverted them completely.
That's great, guys.
Great Sponge, Plankton, Sandy, classic. Wow, that's great.
How does Squidward play the clarinet without any fingers?
He's very good with the little sucker things. And he doesn't play very well, so maybe that's the reason. I think I just answered a question of the show.
Do you like private patties?
No. Yes. No, yes. Just
I'm just hoping you'd please tell me Squidward gets more screen time in the next Spongebob movie.
Yes! I hate to complain about, being in a movie and all, but they did cut Mr. Krabs and Squidward out just to allow, the two guys to go out on their own. I mean, that was the whole thing. But when we heard that the new movie was coming out, both Clancy and myself go to the creator and go, you think we're going to be in this film this time? And I've seen a storyboard presentation, an animatic we call it. And yes, we are. And I wish I could tell you more, but Squidward, remember the handsome Squidward? It's almost as good as that at the end.
So, you said one of your favorite episodes was the camping episode. But unfortunately, Squidward isn't as cool as you, and he didn't sing his part of the campfire song. So can you do that now?
Campfire song. I never had to sing it, so I never memorized it. Squidward does sing, though. Tom Kenny was a tremendous writer as well as his voice work. Put together an album called Best Day Ever. You can get it on Amazon, and it's not kids' songs. It's really good rock and roll things. I mean, every song on there deserves some real radio airtime. And I've got a song on there which is really kind of a Broadway show tune kind of thing called Superior that really lets me spread my wings as far as the singing stuff. So I encourage you to at least download a sample of it because I'm kind of proud of it myself. So.
First of all, I've been a fan of the show since it first aired after the Kids' Choice Awards forever ago, and Squidward is my absolute favorite. But what I was wondering is when you're coming up with the different voices, what is your process for developing a character voice, and about how long does it take?
Yeah, I'll give Squidward as an example here. Most often when you go to do an animation piece or a video game piece, they will give you what's called a breakdown. Oftentimes there's a picture of the person, and then you'll have what his age is, what his attitudes are towards things. And they gave me a picture of Squidward, and you saw this big honking nose there, and he really was sarcastic. So all I did was look at that, and sometimes it comes to you pretty quickly. Other times you just have you're clueless, and so you waffle around there and see what happens. So I knew Squidward had this characteristics. He was sarcastic, so I put him up there in the nose, and I made him putting these kind of thing. Fortunately, that's what Stephen Hillenburg was looking for. But yeah, what's really a pain is so many times the writers will give you a breakdown, and all they give you is backstory. He's left-handed. He has a friend who used to live in Canada, and so you have to bring a sound to that. So you kind of just waffling around trying to find out what it is. So it's hit or miss. You have to have some instinct. You have to have some improv ability, and a little bit of luck. So there's no definite way of doing things anymore.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, boo, you stink! And second of all, and this kind of ties into the boo, you stink, is that Squidward is, obviously, he's full of himself and his artistic abilities or lack thereof. And what I really like is that Squidward has an interest in some very classically beautiful art, and then he also has this odd tendency to fly off into modern and abstract arts that a lot of people generally tend to think is kind of weird or strange. So I wanted to know how much of that is Squidward's critique on the art community, and is Squidward the living embodiment of critiquing the art community for being weirdos, or if that's just complete conjecture?
I think you're giving it too much weight. I would love for it to be some sort of artistic comment, but it's really more of a comment on his egotism. Because I love every painting he has is of him, and every possible genre, from Dadaism to realism to minimalism or whatever. And it's kind of funny to look at the background, freeze frame the episode, and see what he's done by himself back there.